Welcome to the 4A podcast. We are back again after an amazing championship series between the Astros and the Yankees and the Phillies and the Padres. How are we feeling, boys, about the championship series?
They were pretty quick. That was surprising.
Fair.
Yeah, no. I was definitely expecting that Astros Yankees to go more than a sweep. I was expecting the Yankees to win at least one. But Astros, man, simple.
Astros really seem like they're kind of just a freight train, and I don't think anyone's going to be able to stop them here. As far as let's go over that quick sweep for the Yankees and the Astros. Aidan, I know you had the Yankees over the Astros, and all the rest of us had the Astros. But I think all of us thought it was going to be a one-sided battle. For those of us that picked the Astros, but we expected the Yankees to put up some sort of fight, and it felt like they really didn't do that.
Yeah,
Yeah, no.
honestly, the Astros, they came out to play, and Yankees, they barely skated by Cleveland, and it really showed this series when they had to go against the best competition in the American League. The Astros came to play ball, and even though the offense wasn't there in every game for the Astros, the Yankees offense wasn't there in any game besides game four, and that's when the Astros offense decided to show up. And that was really just too late for the Yankees.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, there was a couple games where the pitching did their job. They gave their bats the chance to go in and make those big hits to win them a game. I think two of the games the pitching like lights out gave them a chance to at least score nothing or to score something, and they put up. I mean, uh, they were non-existent. And then the games that they scored 34 runs, the pitching gave up 5 6 runs. So bad timing for the bats. And huge off season for these Yankees though.
So looking at this series though, like game one, Justin Verlander, he rough first inning. Like you're thinking, is this a repeat of the Mariners series? Harrison Bader takes him onto the train tracks. He locks it in. Like he shut down that Yankees offense. Maldonado goes deep, McCormick goes deep, Pena goes deep. Game two, Yankees got this. It's going great. And then Bregman takes Luis Severino into the Crawford boxes. And Valdez was pretty good. And then he tried to flop on the floor and throw a ball at first base, but we ignore that. The Astros win game 2, 3, 4. They sweep the Yankees. And honestly, it came down to the fact that the Yankees stars didn't show up. Garrett Cole in game 3, 5 innings pitched, 5 earned runs. I counted like he wasn't on the mound when all those runs scored. Lou Trevino came in with the bases loaded, allowed all of them to score. Harrison Bader, however, he had a really good series besides that one play in game 3 where he was going to right center field. Him and Judge cross paths. Like I would be scared out of my mind if 6'7" Aaron Judge was running at me. Deservedly so, but you got to catch that ball. That drops. Chas McCormick into the right field seats, probably 318. But you know what? He played to the ballpark. The ball went out. And then game 4, Nestor Cortez wasn't healthy. The left groin was bothering him, and you can't pitch off of your leg if the groin's hurt. You can't get that extension. His fastball was down to 88. Jeremy Pena took advantage of that, and it was a back and forth game. But at the end of the day, Alvarez to Bregman, game over. Yankees can't win that.
Yeah, no, I think if they were going to win any game, game four was that opportunity. Obviously, you're down 3-0 already. It's series is basically already over. Um, you had that chance where it was 5-4, top seven. I mean, I think if you get out of that, you have a good chance out of that jam, that they put him in. You have a good chance to win that game. And then Bregman, deals that bloop single, scores the run or two, and then the offense, couldn't get back. And I think as soon as Bregman hit that ball, the series that was like the dagger. Even though the game wasn't over, that finished it all.
I would also say they had their opportunities in game two, but I think game two was really that kind of changing point, right? When you think it could have been a back and forth type of series, but then Bregman hit that home run and Judge's hit didn't get out of the ballpark, which brought up some controversy between the Yankees and the Astros, but I think that was kind of a turning point in the series. And after that loss, I think it kind of just went, everything else just went downhill for the Yankees. Yeah, they put up a fight in game four, but it never felt like the Yankees were in the series at all.
Yeah, and that Judge hit, I think it was about 113 off the bat, proper launch angle. But you got to look at the conditions of that game. Like Lance McCullers, game two, that home run. The only stadium it would have been out in was Yankee Stadium. And Aaron Boone points saying, "Oh, the roof was open. That's why it didn't go out." Like you're saying it didn't go out in the only stadium the only stadium it would have gone out was your home stadium, which Mickey Mouse home run. Like you gotta understand the fact that you simply got outplayed those two games. And in game four, where Aaron Judge smoked that ball, Lance McCullers, he thought that ball was gone. But you have to think about it, the fact they're in New York, it had just rained, it's going to be humid, the ball's not going to travel as great. And you got to play to the situation. The Yankees didn't do
Yeah.
that.
Well, and I think I believe Judge hit that like almost as dead center as you could get in Yankee Stadium, and that's what, like 400 feet to exactly where he hit it. So it's part of Yankee Stadium, 318 in the corners, 400 dead center. Like, it's just where he hit it.
Tough, man.
Yeah, I mean, Yankee Stadium, like it has a bad reputation for those short porches, but it statistically plays to a pitcher's ballpark because of those dimensions and the gaps and the center field. So as long as if you're a pitcher avoiding those extremes and you can play to the center of the field, which was what Lance McCullers did for a majority of the game, you're not going to let up the long ball in New York.
Yeah.
So going to that series, Aidan, you were the only person that had the Yankees winning. So unfortunately, you don't get a point there. But
Yeah.
your guy was Anthony Rizzo, and he had a great series for himself.
Yeah.
Anthony Rizzo,
Well,
sorry.
no. I was just saying, yeah, it was one of those situations for me. I picked them in I picked in the preseason. I had in spring training. I had Yankees Padres World Series. They both made it to the CS. One of those situations, I can't pick. If I picked against that happened, I would have been really down on myself. I did. I thought the Yankees had a chance. I thought it was going to be a lot better series than it was. But I mean, at least Rizzo did something.
Yeah, I mean, so Rizzo had a 250 batting average, 438 on base percentage, 1.021 OPS. Good series for himself. He had huge RBIs, especially in game four, and he did his job. The Yankees offense, if it were to get going, Anthony Rizzo would have had to been a huge part of that, and he did his job. It's just the only supporting part that he had was Harrison Bader.
Yeah.
So you can't have an entire offense rolling if only two people are going. So I honestly think Anthony Rizzo earned you 2 points there. Like he had a really good series. Steph, do you have any objection to that?
No, I don't think I think him as a sole player, I think he did good. It's just he didn't have that team around him to push him and get him into scoring situations, which I do think Aiden should get 2 points for him.
Yeah, no, I feel like it was one of those big questions entering the postseason was Judge hitting 63 home runs, this guy doing this guy doing this. But how are they gonna click and all together in the playoffs? And they didn't. They didn't mesh together in that playoffs. They didn't come together. You had a guy stand out here, you had a guy stand out here, but they never really stood out in the same like point, which hurt them like awfully.
And you mentioned Aaron Judge's chase for the home run record. I really think that had to burn him
Yeah.
out personally. Like you saw the stress that was on him and the stress that was off of his shoulders when he finally hit that historic 60-second home run. But you have to think some part of him is so exhausted that he just wasn't all there for the playoffs. Like obviously he wants to win. He wants to do it. He's a phenomenally humble person, like puts the team before himself. But there comes a certain time when he's just too tired, and I really think that hit here.
I agree. I definitely agree. I think Judge's race for the title and for that record definitely drained him. And you play 162 games, right? And 162 games is it's a lot of games, and it's just when you're hitting the ball at such a high rate, and you're getting the ball out so many times, it's going to take a toll on your body. And I don't think Judge was ready for the postseason.
Yeah, and I think I think you could see that coming to the end of the season. He had that stretch about with a month left in the season where he was really like hitting every ball, and like people were like, holy cow, he's gonna hit 63, this, that. And then that last week and a half, 2 weeks, he kind of slowed down. There was some questions. Like, is he actually gonna hit, is he actually gonna hit 63? He had a couple deep shots, but then, he finally did it. Okay, maybe the weight's off his shoulders. Maybe he'll go back to playing, like he normally does. And I think it was too much for him.
Yeah, and you also have to look at the fact that this is the most games he's ever played in a season. He played 157 this year. His career high was 155 in 2017, but he's been battling with injuries from 2018, 2019, obviously the abbreviated 2020 season, but like this is his first full healthy campaign. He was healthy for most of last year, but you have to think, long strenuous season, big home run chase. Your big guy isn't going to be there all the way for this series. So Stevs and I, we both had the Astros winning. Tom, he fortunately couldn't be today. He's under the weather, wishing him our best. Tom had Yuli Gurriel, good series, 333, 333, 862 OPS. He's knocking the ball around the yard. He's not going to he's not driving huge home runs. He's going to hit the ball where they are. He's going to put it on a line. He's going to get it in play. And he did a fantastic job at doing that this series. I think that earns him a point.
I agree.
Yeah.
And then Stevs, we didn't have great fortunes. You went with Kyle Tucker and with Jordan Alvarez, and neither of them had great series, to be honest. Alvarez got on base at a good clip, but considering the type of player that Jordan Alvarez is, we expect more from him. We expect those home runs. We're using all fields, and he didn't really do that this series. He was kind of shut down. Besides that last game where he got a couple knocks here and there, I expected more of Jordan Alvarez, so I don't think he's deserving of a point.
I'd agree. I definitely agree. I think Jordan needed to. I mean, not that he needed to step up. The Astros swept the Yankees, but I think he could have stepped up.
Yeah. And then just to refresh, for our World Series Championship Series prediction in the Championship Series in the last episode, we selected a player that we think is going to win the World Series MVP. If we get it right, we get 5 bonus points. So 3 of you guys, well, you guys, Tom not being here, selected a player from this series. Tom had Jeremy Pena, who ended up winning the Championship Series MVP. Steves, you had Jordan Alvarez, and Aidan, you had Giancarlo Stanton. So unfortunately, you're out on that. It's still not a bad pick, though, because at any time in that series, Giancarlo Stanton could have gotten it going, but he looked lost at the plate.
Yeah, he had what? He had that one. I'm pretty sure he had one home run in that series, right? Was that
I don't know if he had
the
any in that
DS?
series.
The DS and the CS are kind of meshing together. I know he had one big home run in the playoffs, but I think that was DS Game 5.
Yeah, that sounds
That
right.
would have been. Yeah, no, my hope was they get there. He hits the home run. 2 big home runs, gets in there. But yeah, no, Yankees out. He's out. So now I gotta cope with what, 3 points, and if I get
Yeah,
the
if you get the World Series
yeah.
MVP, you'll get 3
So
points. And then Steves, are you still feeling good about that Jordan Alvarez pick, or do you think you're
I
going to move
am. I
on when we
think
make our
I.
predictions later?
So I did. I did. I still like that pick, but I think when we make our predictions later, I'm gonna try and go somewhere else with it because I kind of want that. I know I'm not going to win at this point. I just kind of want the points. I don't want to get in last, right? So I kind of want to cover my bases on that end. I am confident about my Jordan pick because he did have a, a lackluster championship series. I think he's going to have a better World Series, and I think that's better for him.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of the Yankees arms that came out were in the upper 90s, stuff like that. Something Jordan Alvarez hits pretty well, but the Phillies aren't going to feature that same velocity necessarily that most of the Yankees pitchers are going to do. And that's something he really punishes on, like bad off-speed pitches or poorly located four-seam fastballs, which is something that Phillies pitchers are a little bit prone to throwing. So that could definitely be something that Jordan Alvarez takes advantage of in the World Series. So with that, I think we got to go to the other series where Philadelphia and San Diego went head to head. In this series, you know, we had an even split. We had two with the Phillies and two with the Padres. My logic, I chose the Padres, but my logic was either I'm going to be right or the Padres lost. So it's a win-win for me. Stevs and Tom both had the Phillies. Aidan had the Padres. What do you guys think?
I was definitely back in the Phillies through and through. I am an NL East. I'm a Nationals fan, so I don't like the NL East as much, but I do like uh I like how the Phillies are and I like how they're constructed. I do think they're missing pieces, so I don't know if I'm gonna pick them later on, but I like them against the Padres, and I didn't think the Padres' star power was going to show up and their pitching was going to be able to handle these Phillies bats. And at the end of the day, I felt I was right.
Yeah, no, I think the big shift, I mean, Soto had his hits, Bell had his hits, people getting, hits here and there. The atmosphere, in my opinion, was huge. I mean, you know, those Philly fans, they were never out of it. And I think that's where they kind of, kept it. Once they won, they split in San Diego, I believe, and then Phillies went 3-0 at home. And, what do you want? I mean, I don't think you can expect to take both games in San Diego as a Padres. For the Padres, I don't think you can. Um, but I think you have to hope to at least win one. Bring it back home. We have Padres fans wishing, hey, let's just get it to six. Once you get to six at home, maybe we can get to seven. Seven, maybe we can win it. I, but I mean, those fans were electric, and I think that's exactly what the Phillies needed. I think that's exactly what Philadelphia needed. They all kind of came together, and
You
you
see, the
know,
thing that I kind of disagree with you there is I think the Padres needed to win both in San Diego because, as you did mention, and it's kind of true, the Philly fans, they were going to go crazy. Like it was their first postseason baseball in 11 years. And San Diego was their first home postseason baseball in 16 years. Like both fan bases really, really cared. And the thing with San Diego is you win both at home, you guarantee that you cannot lose the series in Philadelphia. And that's not what happened. So if we want a quick rundown of the series, we just look at it from a quick overview. Game one, wheeling and dealing. Zach Wheeler he shut him down, right? But Yu
Completely.
Darvish threw pretty well. Like Yu Darvish pitched really well until Kyle Schwarber took him 488 feet. Like that ball was destroyed. Game two was the only Padres win. Nola beat Nola. Aaron Nola just didn't have his best stuff that day. It happened. But the one thing that was really, really blatant about this game is it was the only game in the series where Josh Hader was used. Josh Hader, the best closer in baseball when he's on. Like he had that rough stretch to the middle part of the season. They found the mechanical error, they found the mental error, they fixed it, and he struck out 9 batters straight.
Yep.
You know what? That's the only game he was in. The Padres won. Coincidence, I think not. Padres won with a crooked fifth inning. Game three, Ranger Suarez looked pretty good. They took him out after 70 some odd pitches, which actually saved him to come in game five. We'll get to that in a second. And Joe Musgrove, he fought, but he just didn't have everything. Like the Phillies had really good at bats against Musgrove, and they made him pay for it. They got him out of the game. They beat Musgrove. Game four, it was a slugfest. It was back and forth. Padres went up 4 in the first. Mike Clevenger couldn't hold his own. Phillies put up 3 in the bottom of the inning. And they kind of proved to the Phillies, like the Phillies proved that their bullpen can hold their own. Like they can keep them in a game. Bryson Stott has had great at-bats this entire postseason. And it really demonstrates that when he came up, he was ready to give those quality at-bats. And then just they put on more runs, fifth, sixth, and seventh inning. Phillies lock it down. And then we get to game 5, where back and forth in the beginning of the game, Padres go up 3-2. Sir Anthony Dominguez, who had been great, it's raining. He's throwing the ball everywhere. Padres take the lead. Bryce Harper comes up, runner on second, and they leave in Suarez, which is Bob Melvin defended it, and it's not bad reasoning. Like Suarez hasn't let up a home run to the lefty all year, but you have the best reliever in baseball in your bullpen, and he's not pitching to Bryce Harper in that situation. Joe Davis had the best call possible, the swing of his life. Like we're going to be seeing that on replay for years to come. Bryce Harper takes it into the left center seats, take a 4-3 lead. Jose Alvarado makes it interesting in the bottom or the top of the ninth. Phillies win it. They win the series 4-1.
Yeah, no, I think leaving in Suarez was, I think, the right choice for the amount of outs. Obviously, you have Hader, but what happens, do you want Hader to pitch 6 and, you have Suarez who, like you said, hasn't given up a home run. You have Hader, okay, well, you give up, you put Hader into that game. Hader goes through, he makes it to the ninth. He lets up a base runner at like what, 20 pitches, 25 pitches in the top, and then in the ninth. Who do you bring in? I think if there was 1, maybe 2 outs, then yeah, you go Hader. But Suarez looked amazing in the. What was his ERA before that home run?
He had let up 1 home run, and it was the Rhys Hoskins home run in San Diego.
Yeah, what was the his ERA was he looked amazing in the DS against the Dodgers. So I think that was the right decision. I can see why, he's backing it up. But no, I do think if this is the Phillies, if the Phillies are going to win a World Series in the next 5 to 7 years, this is the season. I think teams are only getting better. So I think this is their window. They have to take advantage of it.
I agree. I do think it was the right decision. I agree with Aiden. If there was 1 or 2 outs in that inning, I think you bring in Hader in that situation. But Suarez, yeah, I guess he was on a little short rest and probably his arm probably wasn't feeling that good. But it is the best. It is one of the best hitters in baseball, in Bryce Harper, and you do want that your number 1 guy out there. But the way Suarez had been pitching, I think he was the right decision in that scenario.
You see, I gotta disagree with that. I think Hader should have been out there. Like, I understand the point. Like, you need someone to close the game if you have the lead, but what lead is there to save if you don't have it in the first place? Like, you have to win that game. You are down 3-1 in the series. You have to do whatever it takes to win the game. And in that situation, putting Josh Hader in to get Harper out is how you win the game. It's like there's other options to close that game. Like, are they Josh Hader? No. But you know what? I would rather have to get to that situation and figure it out then than not have that situation present at all.
That's fair.
So who would you have gone with? Let's just say Hader goes into the game, bottom 8, 0 outs, gets through it, struggles in the ninth. Tying run is on, second. Hader's not doing so well. Who do you bring into the game?
So
Because I know that
Yeah.
the games before were close. Obviously, you had that slugfest. You had the slugfest that used up a lot of pitchers. And then that game, you only had it was Darvish straight to Suarez. So
Didn't Pierce Johnson throw in there beforehand?
no,
Because because in the bottom of the 8th, Suarez lit up that homer. So someone had to connect Darvish to Suarez. So I think that was Pierce Johnson.
No, here it just says Darvish straight to
Oh,
Suarez.
that's my bad.
So, I mean, you didn't use anybody, but the game before, the slugfest you used. I mean, let's see who all pitched.
Yeah,
So you had
they
Suarez, yeah, and Darvish, and then you had, game before you had Clevenger, Martinez, Pena, Garcia, Wilson, Mohan. Who do you go with?
there's so many options there because if you're looking at Haters, you're saying Hater struggles in the ninth because that had a high pitch count, right? So
Yeah,
you have to look in the Phillies lineup of like, okay, where are they going to be? So Harper's hitting with 1 out in the 8th inning. So he hits 3, right?
no, no outs.
No outs.
7 outs.
Okay,
Yeah,
so Harper hits third, right?
yeah,
Okay, so you get Harper out, you get the next 2 outs. You're looking at 6, 7, 8 in the 8th inning. So it's going to be some combination of Bryson Stott, Brandon Marsh, Gene Segura, like that part of the lineup, right? So you're down there. You're
yeah. It
probably
was
looking,
Bohm, Stott, Segura
yeah.
would
So
have been it.
that's
Yeah,
that's 6, 7, 8, right? So we say a Hater starts struggling. Let's say he gets an out, right? You have that option to go to Tim Hill to get the lefties out. You have the option of going to Luis Garcia, who can throw on no days rest. He's a reliever in Major League Baseball. They do it all the time. Like there were options, and the thing that Bob Melvin made a choice, and it wasn't a horrible choice. It just wasn't the right choice given the situation, because you have to make it to the situation where you have the lead. If you don't protect the lead, you don't have to worry about who's going to get the save.
yeah. But obviously, that they left him in. He hits a home run. They go to the World Series. Boom. Here we are.
Yeah, and so
Astros heavy favorites I think most people think, Astros, they haven't lost a game yet. Um, I mean,
It's gonna be fun to watch.
but at the same time, you look at it, it's gonna be fun to watch. You look at it, they haven't lost a game yet, but the teams that they've beaten have had the opportunities to beat them. I mean, you went 18 innings against the Mariners. You had multiple games where the Yankees has had the chance. They had the chances for the Yankees to go in and win. You had game one between the Mariners Astros. The Mariners blew it, I believe. So, I mean, you've had the opportunities to do it, but the Astros are just resilient. They won't give up. The pitching has looked good.
yeah, and we can get into that in a second about just like our previews, our thoughts of that series. We just gotta summarizing the end of that Padres versus Philly series. We had some good ideas about our guys, like getting in the thought of like the next series, figuring out who our guys are. Last series, like all of us went with guys that on that roster. Like Tom went with Bryce Harper, who the swing of his life. Like there's 2 points right there. Like there's no question about that. So
Yeah,
like, but Stebbs, you went with Kyle Schwarber, another fantastic series. Like huge home runs, good at bats. Even when he was striking out, he was still putting up a pretty competitive at bat most of the time. Like there were some where he was just, 3 and out. But then Aidan, you and I went with, kind of like a little bit of a leap compared to Harper and Schwarber. You went with Josh Bell, who had a really good series for himself. Like you didn't really like he wasn't the one in the headlines, but he had big doubles. He was getting on base in those situations. He didn't walk, but he was, still getting on base. I think he deserves a point there.
I
yeah,
agree. I
no,
agree with that.
Yeah. And then I went with Jake Cronenworth, and he was not good. He played good defense, which is nice, but honestly, in the postseason, good defense is nice to have, but especially at second base, you need more offense than you do defense.
no, and I mean, if you're gonna advance to the World Series against a red hot team or just a good team in general, you know, 90, I feel like 80 to 90% of those pieces have to click. And 80 to 90% of those pieces clicked for the Phillies. Even like Gene Segura was coming up with big hits, and some big plays in the field after making that error. You had, I mean, who else on the Phillies? I mean, even like you said, Bryson Stott was taking, those competitive at bats. Brandon Marsh I'm pretty sure, had a big hit. Um,
Reese Hoskins.
Rhys Hoskins,
The bat
uh,
slam in the
yeah.
DS. This
Who
brings
who didn't have a good series for those Phillies?
I mean,
And I think that's what it's.
Castellanos.
Yeah,
Castellanos
Cassia.
has not done a lot in the postseason, but
No.
besides that one
Um.
game in the divisional rounds.
Yeah. Um, I really think that like are you guys ready to transition into the World Series here? Or do you have any
Yeah, I'm in.
lasting
Yeah.
thoughts? So the way
Yeah. No.
the way I was going to transition that is you have to look at what parts of the lineup are firing, what parts of the lineup are going. And almost all of the Astros lineup is going. If you look at their top 7 in OPS, they outmatch the Phillies. I'm going OPS of just this postseason. So Harper's been good. Schwarber's been fairly good. And those are the only 2 guys on the Phillies with an OPS this postseason over 800. Rhys Hoskins is right there with a 779. But you've got Jeremy Pena, Alex Bregman, Yuli Gurriel, Yordan Alvarez, Chas McCormick, all with OPSs over 800 this postseason. When you have that deficit, it's just the offenses aren't on the same level. The Phillies can be there, but when the Astros are hitting 1.7 home runs per game compared to the 1.4 for the Phillies, the team that hits more home runs normally wins a baseball game. Counted, the Astros are striking out a little bit higher of a clip, 8.7 times per game compared to the 8.5 for the Phillies, but they're still the Houston Astros. They've been to the World Series. They know how much pressure is on them, and they get to play at home for a majority of the games.
I agree. I think it's clearing away heavy favorites for the Astros, but I don't think these Phillies are gonna go down without a fight. And I think because I'm looking at the roster right now, and most of the Astros have been to the World Series before, and they know what it takes to be in those tough spots, right? And I'm looking at this Phillies rosters, and most of them haven't been to the World Series. I can see what like Syndergaard on the 15 Mets?
Yeah, Syndergaard was
I would
there.
say
Schwarber was
he
in 16.
Schwarber was in 16. Was David Robertson ever with
Uh,
anybody?
I
I know
don't
he's been
think
around the league a
so
bunch. But
because he
those are
never
the
made it with
only
the
guys.
Yankees. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are the only guys that all have been or may have been to a World Series. So I think on top of just the Astros being in a league of their own, it's all the World Series is a whole nother thing. And yeah, Philly's gonna be absolutely loud and probably cause earthquakes with how loud they're gonna be. But I think these Astros are gonna just be too much for Philadelphia to handle. And if I'm able to make my pick, I'm gonna go Astros in 5. I think they're gonna go up 3-0. I think Philly's gonna take okay.
Um, so I was actually just gonna question you guys on this. Do you guys want to add a point if we guess how many games it goes to?
Uh we can do that.
Okay.
I don't think that's gonna hurt. I think the point system's more fun than anything, and I think it'll just be fun. So
Okay.
Aiden is Aiden saying? No, he's good.
No, I feel like you have to guess the team and the game. So I feel like if you say like,
If you do a joint point,
yeah, so I feel like you get a point. So technically you'd get 2 points if you guessed Astros in 6 or whatever. But then if it's like Phillies in 6, you don't get a point.
Okay.
okay.
Um, no, but going back to the matchup. I mean, these Phillies, they hit the extra bases. They get their doubles. They get their home runs. They love to hit for power offensively. Defensively is, I think, where this game is gonna, lie. They made. I mean, does anybody know how many errors they made against just in this run? In this run, they've made, I think, and
They've made
that's where
plentiful.
yeah, and you cannot make errors against these Ash. You make an error against this Astros team, they're gonna make you pay. If you're getting, just like we saw, um, Game 4 of the Yankees Astros, that failed flip 1 out, but possible double play. turning into, taking advantage of it, is exactly what these Astros do. And for the Phillies, you want to be successful, clean defensive baseball, and good mind and not in the box. Don't they just got to get their hits, play their way. Obviously, in Philly, it's crazy. It's like triple the cost to go to a game in Philly than it is to go to a game in Houston. Like I saw somebody, you can fly to Houston, go to a game in Houston, and fly back for the cost that it is of going to a game in Philly. So that atmosphere is going to be crazy. I do think though the Phillies have to win at least one game in Houston, if not both. If they win both, they're in a really, really good position, I think. But you have to win one. You cannot go down 2-0 in this series.
I think that like I'm rooting for the Phillies. I think it'd be interesting. And it gives me like I think they're a little bit better of a team than the 2019 Nationals, but they feel similar in this. Like they're going against the Astros in the World Series. Like Astros are the absolute favorites. But there's a way for this Philly team to win. And I think that they have to go if they end up back in Houston for game 6 and 7, they have to be the team entering Houston with 3 wins. I don't think they can take 2 in a row in Houston like that 2019 Nationals team did because with the way the schedule is laid out, it's 1-2 off, 3-4-5 off, 6-7. So an advantage the Phillies are going to have is they're going to have Nola and Wheeler for 4 games. They're going to have probably Nola, Wheeler off, Suarez, bullpen, Nola off, Wheeler. So you will get Nola and Wheeler for 4 games. It's just, can you go to Houston with 3 wins?
And I think you gotta look if the Phillies can make this way go to 7, it's all hands on deck. You might, depending on how many Nola throws in game 6, you might be able to toss him out there for maybe an inning in game 7. You might be, you can really put anybody in that situation, throw out. I mean, you could do a full starter if you want, Wheeler, Nola for 1, Syndergaard for 2, and then, throw out, your Alvarado or throw out, one of your closers out there for that night if you need. The Phillies really just have to take this series and push it out, slow it down. Get the Phillies aren't going to win this game in 4 or 5. They're not. If they're going to win it, it's going to be in 6 or 7, probably 7 would be my guess. So.
I agree. I think there is a way for Philadelphia to win this, and I do agree that this team's very reminiscent of the 2019 Nationals and the fact that they are the underdog and they don't give up. They always have that little fight in them, and they're not gonna go down. They're not gonna go down without that fight. And I think nearly the whole world is rooting for Philadelphia to win, but um, I think Houston's just and it's just gonna outclass them in nearly every aspect of the game. And I can see a way that Philadelphia can win, but I don't think it's likely.
Yeah, no, this Houston team, I mean,
Better.
you could already call it a dynasty. You just even with the scandal, I think Tom said this. Even with the scandal, they've proven, hey, we're still a really good team. Somebody said that. Um, I think even after this year, they're still going to be deadly in the playoffs for the next 3-4 seasons. You're still going to have your Jordan. Pena's just going to get better. You're going to get some younger pitchers too, and your pitchers are going to develop. You still have Altuve and Bregman. This team is not going to go anywhere. Unlike this Phillies team scares me a bit after this year. Where are they going to go? I don't think you're going to have this playoff run again. I truly don't. Um, and I don't want to compare it to the Nationals because I don't think they're going to sell off that quick. Um, But you have it, and then I think you're gonna see teams are just gonna get better. The Marlins and the lower bottom feeder teams in the NL are slowly gonna start to get better and make improvements and do this and that. Um, so I think this is the Phillies season that they have to capitalize. You might get a run here or there, but nothing as good as this.
Yeah, like the Phillies, like anything can happen. Any team can find their way as long as they make the postseason. No one thought the Phillies were going to be here. Like I don't think any of us expected the Phillies to be in the World Series. The Astros, yeah, I think all of us thought that if they weren't here, something went horribly wrong. But the Phillies, they could be any team. Any team could be the Phillies that got hot and are here right now. It's just the Phillies are here for the moment. And the thing that you brought up that I actually kind of want to talk about is the fact that the Houston dynasty, like they are the perfect team right now. They don't have a hole, but they don't have a legitimate World Series ring. Do you think that not having a legitimate World Series ring motivates them extra? So like when they open their vanity or whatever and they see the 2017 World Series ring, the players that have one, they don't want to wear that out because there's an asterisk next to it. But when they put on the 2022 ring, they wear it proud because they earned it. There's not going to be any questions. They earned that ring.
There is I think there is definitely a little taint. I think it was Musgrove, Joe Musgrove. He said I don't want to be seen wearing that ring because it feels tainted. And I feel like a lot of those players that were on that team feel that way. Maybe not Carlos Correa or Alex Bregman, but even I think Jose Altuve kind of feels that way in some sense. And I think most of the guys that are currently on that team, I think they're motivated because they just want it to stop. They want everyone to stop being like, you cheated, the ring doesn't count, blah, blah, blah. This is a ring that will count, barring they didn't cheat again, but that's a whole nother thing. Um, but this is a ring that will count, and I think the team around them wants to win it even more because they want it to stop because it's like family, and if you don't want to disrespect you don't want anyone to disrespect your family, right? So having them having that driving force, I think it's definitely a main factor in what this Houston Astros team is going to be able to do.
Yeah, no, I think I think it plays into some factor of, hey, if they get this, nobody can talk. Um, but I really truly don't think they think about that 2017 season. Um, like it's not like nagging them. They know they won. Whether they know they cheated or not, um, it's up to them. Obviously they still think, they're obviously never gonna say that they did. Um, but I don't know if it's gonna push them extra harder. I think it'll be a nice like kind of like, weight off of their shoulders if they can get this win. So it's kind of like, hey, but I don't think it'll affect history. I think if they win it this year, people will be like, hey, this team, I don't think it affects the dynasty, especially if they can win this year.
You say that it won't affect history, as in like people won't
Like, well, like I feel like if they win this year, people will almost not forget about 2017, but like in the broader picture, they dominated for so many years. They won, you know, two in parentheses, um, World Series. Um, it still counts as a World Series, Obviously, it's, here or there, but I mean, to them, it's a World Series, to, certain people, it's still a championship. But I think if you win this year, and it's not as, if the Phillies win this year and they can't win another one for the next 5 years, that's huge because then it's like, holy cow, did that, But I think if you win this year, everything kind of, you kind of get relieved a bit.
um Like, but looking at the idea of a dynasty, right? Like you had the Braves of the 90s. They only had the one ring. They made it to the World
Yeah,
Series a couple times. The late 90s, early 2000s Yankees, they had four rings. You could consider what the Dodgers are doing right now a dynasty. They have one ring. But the thing with the Astros is this World Series would be the ring. When you look back, when it's 2043, and we look back at this Astros team, this year would be the ring that we look at. Like we don't look at that 2017 and we think, oh yeah, that was the year. No, this would change their history. It would, because this would be the year. This is the team that everything worked and they were the team. 2017, we will never take that ring seriously. Like we know who cheated more, who cheated less, but it doesn't matter. When you have the word cheating associated with a team, no one will take that ring seriously. This year, if they win it, it is the real ring in their dynasty.
yeah, no, I mean you have that real ring, and then you have that other ring, um, and I even think, like I said, with that one ring, this is still a dynasty. I, I mean, what are your thoughts if they somehow don't win this one, okay, and they don't win one in the next 5 years or whatever? Would you still count this as a dynasty?
100% you would. Like,
Exactly. So yeah, like I'm sorry for cutting you off, but I feel like even though they have that one, you know, this scandal year, they have still proven to win 100 games. I feel like it's felt like for the past like 5 seasons, they're winning, 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 going to the World Series, going to the World Series. I think the past 6 years they've won. They've made it to the CS, right?
uh, they've made it 6 years straight. They've won it four times
Yeah. So
or three times.
yeah,
Um, but with that Astros team, like they're really good. There's no question about it. But the reason I emphasize like it's going to be a dynasty no matter what. The reason I emphasize it is because in history we harp on World Series rings. Like the Big Red Machine, they got him. The Yankees of all time, they've got him. The Oakland Athletics, they've got him. You know, this Astros team needs the ring. And that's why I'm harping so much on them winning this year. But the Phillies, on the other hand, they if they lose, like, cool, you weren't supposed to be here. But if you win, like you get that cool down, you get that Nationals cool down, you get whatever cool down you want.
yeah. No, I mean, if you look at the past 2019, you had the Nationals who weren't really, weren't expected, to make that run, obviously. They won 93 games. You have the
Dodgers
2020, yeah, the 2020, yeah, the Dodgers, but the Dodgers, it was shortened season. I'm not saying that makes it,
Mickey
but,
Mouse,
yeah, it was shortened
Mickey
season.
Mouse ring.
It's
Um,
not because it was actually the most difficult playoffs in history.
Yes, we
you,
know, but it's just funny.
yeah, you have the 2021 where you had the Atlanta Braves who won 88 games. And then they came in and you had those, clutch players that, boost them to them. Now you have the Phillies, what, 80, I think 87 wins.
Something around there.
87
Yeah.
wins, you have those players, you have those home run hitters. It just proves, but like Brad has been saying, you just got to make it. And I think that'll be fun to see the next couple of years is, hey, this team made it. This team's kind of been, could be red hot. It really rules nobody out of winning a World Series, which is in my opinion, really fun about just sports in general.
I definitely think the Phillies are playing with nothing to lose. They have absolutely nothing to lose. And as far as these as dynasties go, right, I think for baseball, dynasties are different per sport, right? Like dynasties, like in the NBA, right? You have the Warriors, they're a dynasty. They've been winning championships. That's a dynasty in the NBA and in the MLB. It's just a team that's good over a bunch of years, makes the championship series, makes the World Series a couple times, gets a ring, and then they kind of fall apart after 10, 15 years, right? But I definitely think the Astros have kind of built this core. They had a core, right? But they also have, and they're still drafting and they're picking up good guys, kind of like the Dodgers are doing, right? They have a core of good guys right now, and then they're still picking up guys that are like Jeremy Pena, right? You had a guy like Carlos Correa, and you could let him walk in free agency, and you have somebody just as good and even some say even better than Carlos Correa, right? And Pena had an amazing championship series and is going to be very pivotal in winning the World Series, I think. Um, and with going back to the Phillies, right? Yeah, they're playing with nothing to lose, and I do think their championship. I think Aidan is kind of diminishing their championship window a little bit. I think if they have a decent offseason, they could be right back in the mix again next year
Oh no no no! Oh, for the Phillies.
and for years to come. Let me add that.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously it depends on the offseason, but I feel like for every team it depends on the offseason. But predictions.
Um,
What do you know? Who do we think is going to win? How many games? Brad.
I think that we all think that Houston's the favorite, which is true, but I
Hmm.
don't think it's as one-sided as we all think it is. I think that there is a formula for Philadelphia to win this, and they've been doing it in dominating fashion so far. Like, I did not expect them to get past the Cardinals, even though I picked them. Like, there was a way. I didn't expect them to get past the Braves. I had like an inkling they'd get past the Padres because that was a really evenly matched series. And on paper, they're outmatched by the Houston Astros. But part of me thinks they can beat them. Like, it would make perfect sense. Series goes 6 games. Houston wins it at home. Crowd goes wild. Exactly what was supposed to happen happened. But besides 2020, when was the last time that exactly what was supposed to happen happened?
2018.
Yeah. Okay.
Those
2018
Red
too.
Sox.
Yeah. So like
Yeah.
you exclude the Dodgers and Red Sox. Like before that though.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
don't think.
I think you're right there. Um, but this Astros team, I mean, like Steph said earlier, freight train, they're the train, they're the car, and every team in their path has been the deer in headlights. Like holy cow, this team they haven't lost. I mean, have they given? Definitely given the teams they've played opportunities to win. Again, like I brought up, Phillies and Mariners 18 inning game. You had a couple games where they didn't get the hits. The pitching against them was good. So you have this or that, but you know, it'll be a good one.
So the thing that the difference between the teams that are the Mariners, the Yankees, like the Phillies all postseason have been capitalizing on those opportunities. And I don't want to straight up say like the Phillies are going to win this or the Astros are going to win this. I'll get to that eventually, but it's the Phillies have a chance because the way I look at it is what's the difference between the Astros roster and the Dodgers roster? There's not much. What's the difference between the Astros postseason and the Dodgers postseason? The Dodgers didn't fire on all cylinders. The Astros are. If the Astros stop firing on one of those cylinders, they become just as vulnerable as those Dodgers were in the National League Division Series. The Phillies take advantage of those teams that aren't firing on all cylinders. So that's where I'm kind of stuck right now. What are your guys' thoughts?
Well, just straight up. I mean, I think this. I think this Astros team is too good. But I will give the Phillies some games. Um, Personally, I'm just gonna go straight into my predictions. Astros in six. I think, honestly, I think it'll go Astros, one close, one not close. And then I think game three, I think Philadelphia is going to dominate. And I think the first World Series since, 2009, this, that, the fans going to be behind it. I think they're just going to hit. I think they're going to have 34 home runs. I think it's going to be something like 8-3, something like that, where the Astros still get their runs, but it's not like they were ever there. Um, but I think I think it'll go then 3-1. 3-2. I think the Phillies will either walk off a game or get it in the eighth, kind of like they did game 4 or game 5. And then they go back to Houston, and Houston just, ends it. They do it again, this, that. So Astros in 6.
Interesting. Well, I'm gonna go with mine. So I do have here written, I have Astros in 6, and I was mulling it over, and I've been flip-flopping back and forth, and I think I'm gonna go Astros in 5. I just Brad talked about the differences between the Dodgers and the Astros this year, right? And you're right, there's not much different. And I think this top to bottom, I think the Astros were a deeper team. I'm not gonna I won't even say they're a deeper team. I think that they would be, I think if it was Astros Dodgers, I would have picked Astros. Even in that series, right? And yeah, the Phillies kind of, but the Phillies didn't play the Dodgers. The Padres played the Dodgers, right?
Yeah.
So I think if the Phillies had played the Dodgers, I think we're having a different conversation here. And because I don't think the Phillies would have beaten the Dodgers. I don't think that would have happened. And and we'd have a whole nother scenario, right? But that's a bunch of what ifs. The real thing is right now, it's Phillies and Astros in the World Series, and I don't think this Phillies team's going to be able to keep up. I do agree with Aidan that I think Citizens Bank's going to be very loud. I think the Astros are going to take a 3-0 lead, though. I think they're going to somehow out. I think the game 3 is going to be a really close one, and then I think the Phillies will take game 4, and then I think Houston will finish it up in game 5.
So the thing I want to look at is you bring up the point like the Astros Dodger comparison, just bringing about how they're firing on all cylinders. Like the Astros are the Dodgers firing on all cylinders. It's like if the Dodgers were firing on all cylinders, they would be the ones that were like, "Oh my God, the Dodgers." But that can fail.
Okay.
But here's the thing. You get deep into a game, I trust the Astros bullpen so much more than the Phillies. I would be shocked, absolutely shocked, if the Phillies bullpen didn't blow one of these games. Phillies are up 3-0 in a game. Astros just mash, crash, not bang trash cans anymore, but they take the lead back. With that being said, I have a bit of bias here because I can see the score right now of our competition. And if you want our updated totals, Aidan, you have 9. Stevs, you have 3. Tom and I are tied for first with 12. If you want Tom's predictions,
It's anybody's game.
Tom chose the Astros, and he has Jeremy Pena as the MVP. That carries over from last round. So if he gets all of this right, he said it had to go in 6 games. So he gets that right. That's 5 Pena points. Astros 6. That's 7 points, putting him at 19 total. Astros win this in the first place in 6. That gives him 2 points. So I either have to get like the pull of my life, or I just have to beat him in a field that no one else gets points in. And that's what the Phillies winning. I got the Phillies winning in 6. I think that the Nola and Wheeler combo is really fucking good. Excuse my profanity, but it is so good that Nola can beat Verlander, Wheeler can beat Valdez. And if you could just take one of the 2 games that aren't pitched by them, then you can win the series.
Wow. Well, and I think you essentially giving it away if the Astros can win the series. But that brings us into the picks, our players, our MVPs. My MVP is gone, so I'm out for 5 points, but I can still get 3 points and put myself right back into the series if I go perfect. Stevs, your pick is still alive.
Yes.
but I think you did say you were gonna change it.
I'm
And
going to.
Brad, your pick is
Very dead. It was Manny Machado.
yeah.
Oh,
So you have, me and you, we're both up for 3 points. And Steves and Tom, still have their 5 points available. Tom is keeping Pena, so he still has a possible of 5 points.
and 3 points on top of it.
Yeah, are we with 3 points on top of it too, right?
Yeah, that's
So
what
it
Brad said.
would be
Yeah.
8 in total. If Pena wins it, that's 8 in total. Steves, though, is going the alternative route, and he's not keeping Jordan.
No,
He's going to change it up. If Jordan did win, that's 8. He's right back into the mix of it. He's going the riskier route.
it's fair. It's
Steves, who's your
fair.
pick?
I really so this is where I'm at, right? There's no feasible way for me to really get back in the competition. Yes, if I get those 8 points, what I'm at 3 right now,
You
that
put
gets me
you at
to
11.
11.
If you
Plus
go,
I'd
if
get
you, yeah, if you pick Jordan, that's 8, and you went perfect, and the Astros win in 5. I think
I could
you and
have
Tom tie.
No, you'd be 1 point ahead of us,
I
like us right
Well,
now.
well, yeah, but
yeah,
then
I'd
Tom
be
gets the
and
pick for winning,
Tom would
so you would
obviously
tie.
shoot up into Tom would be first. I would be second, I think. Or
No,
I'd
No,
be
you'd be tied. You'd be tied
you'd
I'd
be
be
with
tied.
I would
13.
Hmm?
okay. So it is fair, but at the end of the day, I'm just trying to you know what? No. I'm gonna take the risk here. I'm gonna keep Jordan. I do think Jeremy Pena is gonna have an amazing uh World Series. I do think he's gonna keep his championship series MVP and keep that in his trophy case, right? And I do feel like he could add a World Series MVP one to it, but if I really want to get back in the race, then I think I need to stick with Jordan, and I think I think that's what it. If I want an opportunity to win an imaginary prize, then I feel like that's what I'm gonna have to do.
Brad, your your
Okay.
pick for the World Series
So
MVP.
Phillies.
my logic here, right, is that if I'm going with the story that Nola and Wheeler are going to dominate, I got to take one of the two of them. And so if you look at the style of pitching, right, Aaron Nola, he's going to bend the ball. He's going to make one pitch look like the other. Zach Wheeler is just going to pound the zone. He's going to pitch. Nola has the higher ceiling and the lower floor. Zach Wheeler is going to be more consistent. However, Zach Wheeler might get taken advantage of by those Crawford boxes. So I'm kind of on the fence between the two of them, excuse me. Um, Knowing that Noel is going first and that he would have to throw game 5 at Citizens Bank, I'm going to take Zach Wheeler.
Okay. Wow. Just gonna pick. I mean, obviously, if you're going Phillies, you kind of gotta stick with it. But if the Astros win, I think Tom, unless Mia Steves, goes. Um, Obviously, I don't have to go perfect, but
I would need a miracle.
yeah. Okay. I'm in between two. Obviously, I picked the Astros. I'm gonna stick with the Astros. MVP. I'm between two. I'm between going with Steves and going Jordan, um, or going with Kyle Tucker. He's kind of been quiet. In my opinion, he's due to break out. He's due to have that big, those big games. And just because Steves went Jordan, I'm gonna go with Tucker. I think he's gonna have a game here, a game there. And then I think he's actually gonna walk. I think he's gonna have a huge game 6. Where there's kind of more recency, right? Because fans vote, right?
Huh? For MVP?
Fans vote for MVP.
Uh,
They might have some sort of say, but I don't think they have the final
The
decision.
final decision.
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like if Tucker has a huge game 6 and they're winning 6-2, whatever, people are gonna remember, hey, look, Tucker's having a big game, gives their But no, I'm gonna go Astros in 6 and Kyle Tucker MVP.
And so, just right before we wrap things up, this postseason has been really good, honestly. Like, there's been a lot of twists and turns. It ended up being the American League Championship Series that we exactly expected. The Yankees didn't get there in the route that we thought they would. But the National League, the Dodgers, Mets, and Braves, none of them made it to the championship series. We saw two wild card teams get there. We saw the Phillies emerge. We saw Houston emerge. Who's going to stand up? Who's going to be that guy? And what team's going to win it all?
Thank you for listening to the 4A podcast. Make sure you guys follow us on Instagram, YouTube, all at 4A podcast. Championship series recap, pretty good series. You now have World Series, Astros, Phillies. Hope it's a good one. Thank you for listening. Peace.